Mike Meyer, thank you for coming on ThinkTech. Nice to see you here. It's wonderful to see your smiling face. You have such a nice disposition. Even on a busy day.
Even on a busy day when I've been running late. Yes. Well, it's nice to see you again, Jay, and you always have a nice disposition,
Thank
too.
you, thank you. So, I want to talk about the cloud. I want to talk about your IT that you're doing in your company. And I want to talk about what happened at UH with the hacking into their database. You understand what happened? Were you involved? What's your comment on it?
No, I wasn't involved other than, as I mentioned earlier, I was on the list that got notified that it had been done because I had data in there obviously from the years that I spent up there with parking permits and whatever else, right? I don't really
You never
know.
got a ticket, though.
I don't remember ever getting a ticket,
Just checking.
So
Tell the people whether you got a ticket, Mike.
I don't remember ever getting a ticket. I
That's
deny
what they
everything
all
at this point. So I'm not sure quite why I was in their database, and I'm not sure what information was in there for it. But yeah, that's a surprising thing to happen up there. Shows how easy that is to occur.
Well, doesn't it also show, and there's been some talk about this in the newspaper, it also shows that you have to keep your systems current and secure and spend a little time and money on them. Otherwise, getting old is not a good thing.
Getting old is not a good thing.
It's never a good thing, is it?
For anybody. For IT systems, even worse than for many other things.
Yeah,
Right? Getting old is a real problem because we become less secure too, I guess.
Yes, we do. I got proof of that.
Let's not talk about that.
No.
But that's a nice segue into cloud computing, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Cloud
Tell us about
infrastructure.
cloud computing. Tell us what you're doing in it. I know
Okay,
you're doing a lot, and you have novel approaches, don't you?
Well, novel a little bit, yes. It's a little bit different than what most people think of. I think the basic thing to talk about is how to define cloud computing, because there's a range of things that go under that moniker, right? That's something that confuses people steadily, particularly as it becomes a bigger and bigger part of business life, and people know that this is the coming thing, or this is the thing that's here now, or it's going to be coming someday. What is it, and how does it work? Very
Let me
simply.
take a wild guess, and you can tell me how wrong I am.
Okay.
It's up there on a server, a third-party server, any server, maybe a server at the top of Mount Olympus somewhere. It's encased in concrete, and we all get to it. And so we send stuff up there, and we call it down, and that's cloud computing. It's a big server somewhere, right? Isn't it just
Right.
as simple as that?
Basically, that's true. That's what it is. I tend to think about it a little differently than what you're saying, because it basically is turning the planet into a computer,
Okay.
right? I mean,
Okay.
you
More
the
than one
point-
server.
Right. The point is that you begin using processing power and storage for things as you need, right? And you actually tap it from wherever you are, for whatever you want.
Okay, so it's lots of access to more than one server, to a whole system of servers.
Yes, exactly. Now, there are distinctions and different ways it is defined. There are different approaches to this. I have my own approach, which we've been implementing here for the last year and a half.
And you can tell all your secrets. It's okay.
Yes.
They're all friends out there,
Yes,
Mike.
right. Just keep them quiet. A few secrets, maybe, a few here. Most people tend to think of cloud computing, they think of Amazon, they think of, Google Docs, the whole software thing, Microsoft with Azure, if they're familiar with that development platform, Microsoft Office 2010 online, right, as it becomes a free online, set of applications. Emulating Google Docs in a way.
Where
although
it all kind of started, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft doesn't want to say it that way, but
We can say
yeah, reality is reality here, right? Google leads, in these things. That's very much cloud computing because you're tapping applications, resources, everything out there. That's not what we're doing because
Okay.
that I think along with everyone else that is the ultimate future. That's turning the whole world the whole planet into a computer and ultimately beyond, the solar system.
It's the ultimate network.
Yeah, the ultimate huge processing system, right? And you don't worry about where you are, you just plug into it and that's it. You do what you want. So, but in the interim, For the next few years, most people, most businesses need to move from where they are to that. And it's kind of hard to jump from having your own servers and computers and networks and desktops and things and then jump into a cloud that's somewhere on the mainland, maybe East Coast, West Coast, both all together. And
You worry.
yeah, trust that it's going to continue to be there,
This
whatever.
is mission critical data, and you worry.
So, and most people have a hard time with that. Now, I'm not denying it will be there. Right now, I think it's a little bit iffier because this is very new stuff. But the other side of cloud computing is the other definition of it is based on true virtualization, which has been in place in enterprise IT departments for several years now.
Define what that is in this context.
Within this context, virtualization is simply turning the hardware into software, virtualizing the servers in a data center, a corporate data center. Most of them have already been done. The basic reason for that is efficiency, because the standard server, the standard business server in any office, any shop, anywhere in the world runs on average at 10% capacity. You're using 10% of the capacity of the hardware that you buy to do that. When you virtualize
Not
it,
me, by the way.
not
It's an
yes, you
average,
use-
but it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
me.
You use all of
I'm
it,
way
sure.
up there.
Yeah, way up there. All those other people, right?
Yeah, right. The other guys.
Yeah. They only use 10% of that capacity most of the time. Most of the time it just sits there, right? Well, we have several problems with that. One, the cost of buying that capacity and all the hardware that goes with it that's not used. That's not smart when times are hard, particularly. Also, resources. Resources are tied up in that, and they're not being used. Wasteful in terms of the planet. And then you've got the problem of what to do when you get rid of it. You got to get rid of the thing when it's old, and it dies after 3 or 4 or 5 years, or 6 or 7 if you squeak it out.
So you've gone through this whole life cycle, spent all this money, electricity. It's
Oh,
not
yes. Yeah. You
insubstantial.
power it all, right?
And then you have the problem of what to do with it at the end, and all the while you've only used 10% of it.
Right.
This is a waste.
It's not a good deal.
No.
Right. So you virtualize it. The virtualization, VMware, hypervisor with Microsoft now emulating VMware, that allows you to break the link between the computer and the hardware. So it creates a software version of the computer using that hardware, and then you can add as many computers as you want. You simply duplicate them on that hardware base. So you have a physical computer that is now normally, in a virtualized situation, runs at closer to 70 to 80% capacity, because you're actually running maybe 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 servers on one physical box that before was running one part of the time, right? So that's
How old is this?
well, the whole virtualization process started with PC emulation on Macs and Mac emulation of PC, and started with the realization that that hardware could actually do a lot more than it was doing if you could figure out how to use it.
So it was 5 years.
More like, no, that goes back 10, 15 years, the
that-
beginnings of it.
Okay.
It didn't really become virtualization until about the last 4 or 5 years,
Okay.
right? When it was realized that, wow, wait a minute, we're just
yeah.
messing
We
around.
can hold a
You
lot
can
of things in,
actually,
yeah.
we can do this really, right? Because it works. So, in the corporate world, the corporate IT world, you say cloud computing, they're talking about virtualization. You virtualize your data center, and then you consolidate everything. It makes it much easier to manage, right? Okay, so cloud, in the cloud, software in the public cloud out there, big corporate data centers virtualized, dealing with hardware and resources and management, okay? So what we've done is bring this together for small businesses and say, okay, we will set up a virtualized data center and then set up literally virtual data centers for you as a small business. You have 5 employees, 2 servers, 10 employees, and 1 server,
It's all
20,
virtual.
whatever it is. What we do is take over your server and your desktops, run them, virtualize them in our cluster of high-speed VMware-based servers, just like a big data center for a large corporation. And then we give that to you on a monthly basis, a fixed cost monthly subscription. You pay for what you use. In that sense, it's like the software cloud computing out there. You pay for what you use.
So what's the name of your company?
Islanda. Islanda Tech.
Spell it.
Islanda. Island with an A on the end.
Okay. And where are you?
We're headquartered out of Kaneohe, right?
But you're actually in the
virtual.
cloud.
We
That's
actually are in the
perfect.
cloud. Yes.
You got me.
Yes. You had to ask, right?
Sorry, this was not rehearsed.
No, we're actually in the cloud. We've been a virtual company since I set it up 4 years ago, out of my other virtual company, right, which was software development.
It's the same idea.
Same idea, elaborating. It's actually what I wanted to do 10 years ago when I started doing this stuff. And I, as usual, was a little bit ahead of the technology, which,
That's okay,
did it
Mike,
again.
That's okay. That's a good thing.
I do that every time, right?
So I'm a customer, okay,
Mm-hmm.
or a prospect, and I come to you and I say, "What can you do for me?" You know, I have a law office, for example. I have 8 lawyers.
I was just talking to your office manager.
Yeah, right. I didn't hear the conversation, but it could be similar. You know, and what can you do for me? And first of all, do you have to come in and actually touch my stuff, or you do it all remotely somewhere?
Well, what we do is work through the entire process of how we're going to put it together, what you want to change about your IT infrastructure. In effect, once we work all of that out, which is really just the details of it, what we do is come in and image your machines. Your servers, we take a conversion from VMware and convert it into a VMware image. We do that with desktops also. There's several ways that we can do it. The most
So
simple
it's an image
way.
of the disk. So now you
Yeah,
know
we're
everything.
actually taking an image of the machine with everything on it.
Okay.
It's a complete image of the machine.
Okay.
We turn it into a virtual machine.
Suspending it in electrons.
Right, and then we kind of shove all of those electrons into a USB drive. We take them down to our real data center, which is where all of our stuff happens, right? Which is at DR Fortress.
Oh, at the airport. Okay.
Yes, right.
That's a
Which is
fabulous
secure. It's
building.
the
That's
only
very
one-
secure, yeah.
That's the only really N+1 secure data center here on the civilian side of things that I know of. I should say that I know of. There may be others somewhere hiding. Okay, we take it down there, and then we create your virtual systems in our virtual data center. We define you become a completely distinct domain with your information in that, isolated from everything else that we have in there, which we can do because we use virtual switches. We use Cisco ASA as our security for all of this. We set up a Cisco ASA VPN to your office if you're in an office.
Virtual private network.
Virtual private networking, which encrypts everything between there
Oh,
and there.
that
We
too?
allow
Okay.
it. We configure it normally so that there is only one place that it can go, only one address, and that's your address in our cloud
So
data
you
center.
would never have a situation like with the parking tickets at the university.
Should never have.
Okay.
Never have. There's no way to get to it, right?
Okay.
You can only go from there to here, and it's encrypted.
Maybe you should talk to them.
Well, yeah, that's a big job, I
But
think. Maybe we'll get-
encryption and security is more and more important.
Right.
I want to talk about that in a few minutes. So okay, so now you've created this thing on your box in your fortress over there, and it's another server is all it is. Physically, it's another
Physically, it's
server.
on a
But
cluster of
sophisticated
servers
software.
with storage area networking, with lots of storage, which we have. We have multiple networks for backup, so that we do automatic imaging and backup as part of the service.
So now you've created this.
So
in-
we've
in, the
created it.
fortress.
We're running it there, and what we do from the office is they don't need servers anymore. Those can be sold or gotten rid of, right? The desktops that they have, the desktop PCs that they use, they can continue to use, and we set those up as dumb terminals in effect. So they RDP, for instance, okay, or PCOIP. That's the new version.
You
of
better
it.
do something about the acronyms here. Nobody's
Yeah, I
gonna
know,
what you're
those
talking
acronyms
about.
are just bad. Remote desktop access is a simple way to use it, which we use now. The new form of that is PC over IP, which is a new protocol by VMware, okay, which does a much better
This
job.
is brand new. I haven't heard of this. Yeah.
It's
But that
it's been
doesn't-
around
that's
for
not
a couple of
dispositive.
years, right?
Okay.
It's evolving very quickly now. You can even do remotely to a remote desktop using PCOIP. You can do VoIP phone. You can do high definition video.
Got it.
Right?
Wow.
So it's all
Wow.
that. You can't do that with the RDP remote desktop stuff. It's just not in the protocol.
So this lets me, with my dumb terminal, connect to your virtual
Yeah.
server in the Fortress
And you get
and
your
do all
desktop.
kinds of things. I
You
get
get
my
your
desk
desktop.
from the
Yes.
terminal.
You log
I mean,
into
from
your
the server
desktop.
in the Fortress.
You log into your desktop, but your desktop is no longer tied to the machine that you're using. You're just using that machine, and you use that to get to your desktop.
Okay, now suppose I got some cockamamie program that I want to download, okay, from the internet. Can my virtual machine do that for me, or do I have to go through some process?
No, it can. You can do
Really?
that if you're allowed to do it.
And you
Now
can
that's-
control that
yeah.
on behalf of my manager, who
On behalf of your manager, right, exactly.
you
And
can
we-
listen to me, you listen to her.
That's exactly right, and we would very strongly encourage her not to allow that kind of thing.
Because it might bring the whole thing down.
Right. This has to do with the business side, not the physical, technical side that we
Yeah.
do of what this means. Because what we try to do, the philosophy of Islanda and the entire Islanda cloud structure is to bring enterprise class IT to small and medium businesses,
I got it.
which is,
Otherwise, they wouldn't have that. They just wouldn't have it.
they wouldn't have it. They don't have it.
Too expensive, too
Yeah,
much trouble
often,
with it. Yeah.
they're struggling just to keep the machines running, and usually they're not running very well because they're not even able to do the maintenance on them.
Is this expensive to make this kind of transition for a small business?
No, it's actually cheaper than running your own machines.
Because you don't need to have them in the office anymore and buy
Right.
them and maintain them and all
You,
that.
you get an immediate savings if if you have old machines that needed to be replaced, servers for instance. Those are easy for us to do because you don't have to buy them, right? That's it. You convert them for a monthly subscription, and you pay for what you use, and you
But
pay
you
for
know,
it as long as you use it.
Why can't I sell my old servers to you and you could use them in the Fortress? What do you think, Mike?
Bring me door stops. Yes, we could probably. Maybe
You're trying to tell me that the servers in the Fortress are very special
Yes,
and fast.
yes.
But how do I know that the wire, the broadband from the Fortress to me is fast enough to carry all this virtualization?
Okay, now that's an interesting point, actually. When we talk to people about converting to a full cloud office, their first reaction is, okay, you're going to put all of our desktops and our servers in your data center, and then we're going to connect to them. Oh, that must be slower then, because we got to go through the internet, and we're going to have to come back. And we usually say, well, we always say, actually, no, it'll be faster. But they, of course, don't believe that. So what we do is say, well, let us set up an example of it, and then you can try it, okay? And when they try it, and when they get installed with theirs, the first thing they say is, this is faster. Why is this faster? Well, because in their office, they were running probably on an old server, on old PCs, on an old network that has not been maintained with corrupted drives, et cetera, right, which slows everything down. We move it over. Now, if we clean it up, if we take garbage from them and put it on our systems, it's
The
still
same thing, yeah.
But part of what we do is say, hey, it's worth it to do a little cleanup in the process. Let us adjust this and make it right as we put it on ours. And then it comes much faster because it's running on state-of-the-art servers, on megabit networking, right, with high speed. We're also an ISP, a commercial ISP. We're setting right on
ISP?
Internet Service Provider.
Thank
for
you.
commercial.
See?
All of these acronyms have meanings, multiple meanings sometimes. But because of that, we're on Tier 1. That means very big internet providers, and Tier 2 providers, right? So you're right on it, right there, right?
So I don't have to go and get some kind of fast gigabit kind of speed?
The real key is what's going back and forth from your office to us. All the processing, all the files are secure, and they're moving only within our very high-speed internal network. What you see on your screen and what you're working with are basically only screen paints and keystrokes. The data doesn't go back and forth. You're only controlling it remotely.
So that really makes it faster because the screen paint doesn't take as much bandwidth as the
Exactly.
actual processing
Yeah,
of the data.
you're not pushing files back and forth. You're simply controlling them remotely. So people are surprised with that. In the old days, and I'll talk about old days, when everything was was mainframe based and everybody used remote terminals to do it, they weren't surprised at that because they were only moving little green letters back and forth, right?
Right.
So it's effectively the same thing.
So why isn't this all over town? Why doesn't everybody have this?
Well, I'm trying. I'm trying to get it that way.
Well, you're the only one doing it?
Some of the other, some of the other IT, there are not a lot of IT operations.
No,
really
I
left
wish
here.
there were more, actually.
Yeah.
Nothing against you,
No,
but
no,
I wish there were more.
It's really come down on that. Everyone is playing with this, right? And they sell it or try to a little bit. They haven't focused on it. What I've done is say, okay, this is where the future is. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it completely. So we've actually installed it. It is possible to do with this with the free VMware software. Put it on a server and do this. Okay? We run the full VMware Enterprise suite on 5 servers.
Not free,
right?
but much better.
Not free. It's not free.
No,
not
I'm
for
sure,
us.
I'm sure. Well,
but it makes the difference, right?
So, but you sound as if, you're kind of, I don't know if integrator is the right word, but you have this very sophisticated software, state-of-the-art servers, and you're integrating all these pieces together in order to achieve a result that's not otherwise available. I mean, that you really need to have you there putting the pieces together because it isn't simple.
We provide the service, and we're able to provide the service with the security and to give you the increased efficiency. And one of the really key things to this is flexibility and scalability. You pay for what you use. We have clients who have their business changes through the year. Sometimes they need more people, sometimes they need less. Traditionally, that would be, well, you got to add 3 more people temporarily. What do? You have to go out and buy PCs for them and configure everything and set it up, and then after 2 months, you don't need them anymore. And then what do? Well, you got them sitting there.
This is very valuable to have this because businesses have to right size now, the way it is in the economy.
That's another real reason why I spent the time setting this up and figuring out how to do it, because it allows you to do that. It allows you to have that flexibility to say, okay, they called us up, we need 3 more desktops for these people in this department.
Easy for you to do.
15 minutes. Well,
Wow.
we don't do it that fast because we need to reboot their systems, so we'll probably wait till after they go
But the
home to
actual
do it.
work is only a few minutes.
15
So,
minutes.
you know what, but this leads naturally to, talk about flexibility and all. What about the flexibility? What happens is I wake up one morning and I say, I don't like Mike Meyer anymore.
Yeah. Some people have done that. Anyway.
I don't like the way he parts his hair.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
a really
I'm-
big part. Right?
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
While I appreciate all he's done for me, and he's introduced me to computing processing and virtual that I would never have been exposed to before. He taught me a lot. I'm out of here. I'm going. Now, what happens? Am I locked in? Am I the prisoner of
us?
Zenda?
Yeah.
Prisoner
No,
of Zenda.
no. Islanda. No, it's very carefully structured not to be that way. In this case, we are unlike any of the other IT companies here that I know of for what we do. We're fully cloud. We believe in the philosophy of it, which is you pay for what you use. So we have no long-term contracts. Okay, month to
What is it,
month.
month to month? Whoa,
month.
that is something. That's a statement of confidence.
Yes, it is, and it works, right? Because we deliver a very good product for that. But there's more to it than that, right? So is the technology a problem than what we've done? No, it's not. VMware, which is what we use, is the standard for virtualization. As I said a while ago, just a few minutes ago, you can download a free version of VMware and put it on any computer you have. We will, if you want to leave us and go somewhere else, we will give you your VMware images of all your machines and all your data, and you can load them on any other VMware system. Or we'll help you set up one you can load it on if you want to put it back on a box in your office.
And assuming I'm hooked on this, then I would want to do that instead of returning back to the old way.
Trying to, yeah. In
I've
fact,
been weaned already.
you've been weaned already, and there's a lot of people, a lot of existing IT companies who sell VMware to business saying you should virtualize because it gives you the flexibility and a lot of management benefits on every machine you have, right? We simply eliminate the machines, right?
So, suppose you were in Cincinnati, just for example. Could you do the same thing for me from Cincinnati?
From here, we could. you're going to have latency because of the. That's a good point. It's a good point, Jay. That's something I wanted to talk about. We could technically, but there's going to be latency because you've got 3,000 miles between here, roughly, between here and there, right? So there's a little delay on it. I mentioned we're an internet service provider. We provide, which means we're connected directly in to it. So and we use a special routing system. Nobody else.
So it's very fast.
Very fast. We can service the West Coast. Well, I would be reluctant to try to service much beyond that for a full office. In fact,
And that's because the connection that you need to get the screen painting from the virtual processing.
Yeah, you can get it. You know,
it would
but there are other things that go on, and we would prefer to have really faster service for people, and we can't guarantee it if you're traveling 3,000 miles. But what I'm looking at, the model that I'm building this on, is a regional model, which is, I think, how this kind of thing will work.
Got it.
It makes much more sense to do this in regional hubs, right, than it is to do it nationally. You go national, yeah, you can do the software that way. And someday it would all be fast enough, you know.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, if the Google gigabit thing, came true, if the whole country were on gigabit,
Well,
then
we
you
would have
could
no
be in
problem.
Cincinnati, no
Yes,
sweat. And
right.
in fact, the whole world could go this way.
Right.
And do you think, would you agree with me from what you said? It sounds like this is the voice of the future speaking, and that, one day everybody will want this and have this, because it's a better program, and it'd be in the hands of maybe not many, but fewer than many.
Fewer than many, but I'm thinking that for a lot of human reasons, working on a regional basis would be a lot more comfortable for a lot of businesses. Saying,
Yeah.
I know that I can actually see the people sometimes down there. It's
Sure.
not Google who are those people. Right?
Sure,
Where
it's
are
like all politics are local, all news is ultimately local, and
for large enterprises that work internationally anyway, they don't care, right?
Yeah.
But for small and medium businesses, they're used to
Right.
knowing their employees and their everything.
your slice of this market, the way you
It's a
carve
slice.
out your slice, needs to be regional.
It needs to be
If I'm a
regional.
global corporation, I'm doing this, well, I'm going to have a system
Yeah,
already.
you're going to
that-
do it. Yeah, that's fine. They don't have any problem with it. So it is a slice. I'm saying that we're focused on the small and medium businesses, right? And they're the ones who need it most. And they're the ones who can take the most advantage of it because it actually saves them money. Saves them money
This is
and
very
gives them
interesting.
secure IT. It secures their data, gives them the beginnings of policies. How many small offices, actually
don't
have
have that.
IT policies,
Right.
They don't have it, right? In fact, I was late coming here because of a presentation to a client, a fairly
Priorities, Mike.
yes. That's why I was a little late, right? They're very interested and they're looking at it, and it's a change, and they're realizing that they don't have any policies now, and we would by default force them into a certain amount of policy. And I say that's very conscious. That's a very
That's
conscious
like a
choice.
company that gets a good website. The website remakes the company.
Yes.
So in this case, it's the same thing. You want to go another chapter, in computing, it's going to have an effect on your
Yes,
whole company. A
you're
good
going to
effect,
change.
good effect.
Yeah.
But here's my concern, and it's the last question, very quick now. What about global security? Because it's going to bring everybody together and make everybody that much more dependent on the net and the internet. And so if somebody with evil intention wants to bring it down, this is going to make us that much more vulnerable to a gigantic failure by virtue of terrorism or whatever.
Oh,
Am I right?
Yes, in the sense that if you have the internet come down completely or portions of it, right? Sure, but isn't that the situation already?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thought.
Right. Even I look at small business in Hawaii. We look at small businesses. And I have the problem, which I've had for years, which is why I'm doing this, that they don't pay attention to their data. And I've over the years often talked to them and said, "Well, do you realize where the center of your business is?" And well, it's sitting on that box that's all dusty under that lunch table over there, right? Because that's your data, right? And in many cases, that's how secure it was, under the lunch table, right? The box over there.
Below the mayonnaise jar.
Right, right. And I look up at the sprinkler system above that, yes. And they, oh, well, that's all right. We have it all on paper in the back room. You're going to re-enter all the paper. That's
We
right.
go out of business. That's
Yes.
what happens.
In fact, disasters, IT disasters like that for small businesses. This is a statistic that comes out of VMware. I forget the source of it. Any smaller business, smaller medium business that has a full IT disaster, whatever the cause is of it, they lose all their data. 70% of them are out of business in a year.
Understandable.
If you think
It's
about
just
it,
an overwhelming burden.
yeah, there's no backup. See, and there's no real backup as in disaster recovery, which is another benefit of what we do because we provide, in effect, a basic level of disaster recovery. Your office can burn to the ground and you can lose all your PCs because there's no data on them. None of your data is on there.
And I mean, right. And you're in the fortress.
We're in the
Maybe you have
fortress.
Mira somewhere else, and
Yeah.
overseas, whatever, or you could if you wanted.
Yeah,
So the
we're
result is
working
it's-
on mirroring on the West Coast, which is with other data centers, so that it makes it a little.
Stay away from the San Andreas fault.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Trying to find a
I
stable
think
place.
I think you're a visionary guy, Mike. You always were. In all of our contact, I was always impressed with how visionary you were, and I'm sure that you're going to carry this, may I say, into the clouds.
With no rain, just sunshine above the clouds, right? Yes.
Thanks,
you, Jay.
Mike Meyer. Thanks for coming down. We'll do it again, right?
Sure.
Keep trucking.
Keep trucking. That's what we're doing. Okay.
Aloha.